It's been a while, right? Ignore the sounds outside. It's the kids in the pool practicing swimming. It's been a really long time since I sat down for a full length, proper YouTube video. I haven't posted anything in August and September except for like a couple of YouTube shorts, I think. I really want to thank all of you subscribers out there who have stuck with me throughout the year. In fact, not just the last 2 months when I didn't really post anything, but thank you for sticking with me throughout the year since I've been posting on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys taking taking some time out of your day to watch my videos. I also want to know how you guys have been in the past 2 months. My uni classes finally began in August, and I've been so overwhelmed with everything that's been happening since uni started. I'm in my second year now, and I've realized that I have so much to do, like in terms of like preparing for the future and stuff. So I've just been busy like trying to cope with all of it. I've been watching The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like, the show's over, but I still can't stop thinking about it. Like, I constantly watch edits of it. Let me know in the comments. I would love to discuss with you guys about any of these. Like, how's life been? If you're watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, anything at all, I would love to chat with you guys. And now getting back to me actually filming videos. Today's video, as you can see from the title, is nothing too special. It's just I'm gonna talk about books I've read in August and in September. If you are following on my Instagram though, the link is in the description, so go follow me there because I post a lot more on Instagram. Let's just jump into the video. Also, before I start talking about the books I read, I just want you guys to know that all the books I read in August and in September are ebooks. So for those of you who enjoy watching people like hold up physical copies of books and talk about it, you are not gonna see any of that in this video. It's just gonna be me ranting about every book I've read and with the picture of the book here. Sorry to disappoint, but I actually tend to read a lot faster on ebooks than physical books. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, starting with books I read in August. If you have watched my July monthly reading wrap up, link is up here. So if you have watched it, you know that the last book that I read in July was the Inheritance Games series, which had 4 books. And so starting in August, I actually read the collection of short stories set in the Inheritance Games universe, which is called Games Untold. This has like I think 5 or 6 short stories, and these short stories are all set in the same world as the Inheritance Games, and they all take place at different timelines throughout the series. And each of these short stories has like different characters. It's not just about Avery or Jameson. You also see other characters like Nash and Libby, and you see Grayson. And of course, one of my favorite short stories in this collection was this short story with Avery's mother. Getting to read her story in Games Untold is just so cute, and it also made me like weirdly emotional reading it. And I'm glad that I finally got to like close the entire chapter on the Inheritance Games. Then after this, I read Dream On by Jennifer Hartman. So I wouldn't say that Jennifer Hartman is like my favorite author, but she has written one of my favorite books, which is Still Beating. And unlike Still Beating, Dream On is not a dark romance. It's more of a new adult romance with young adult characters. The story, I received it as an arc, which amazing, obviously. So the story is about this girl Stevie, who when she's in high school ends up falling in love with her classmate Lexington By the way, Lexington is one of the prettiest names I've ever heard. I don't know, it's one of the reasons why this book is like stuck in my head. It's because of the guy's name. Stevie ends up falling in love with Lexington, but a tragedy drives them apart. And couple of years later, Lexington is a world famous actor and Stevie is still the poor girl that she was, and she's kind of like struggling to make money in this like small bar that she works at as a pianist. Like, Stevie finds out that Lexington is the lead actor in this popular romance drama that is taking the internet by the storm. And when she watches the drama, she is horrified and angry to learn that this drama that Lexington is in is based on their romance, like their story and their heartbreak. And obviously Stevie is so mad that Lexington would, like make this show out of their lives and like broadcast it on television for the entire world to see. And the fact that he didn't really like take permission or like ask her about it before making the show. But things kind of get tricky when Lexington's agent approaches her and tells her that she could get into a fake dating relationship with Lexington and gain popularity herself and try to get into the film industry, while also hyping up the series that Lexington has made about their life. I will say it is not one of my most favorite Jennifer Hartman reads. Like, Still Beating is still my top favorite of the books like Jennifer Hartman has written. Dream On was a good book. I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, it wasn't bad. But there were some parts of the book where I was like, it could have been written a little more differently, especially like the third act breakup and everything. And even sometimes the way Lexington behaves in the book. Like, I love the guy's name, but at some points in the book I didn't really love his character or like what he was doing to Stevie. Overall, it is a great book. So if you're not interested in dark romance but want to check out Jennifer Hartman's work, then you can definitely pick this book up. After this, I kind of felt myself starting to get into a reading slump, and for me, I've personally found that 2 types of books get me out of reading slumps. One is dark romances and the other is really, really, really spicy romance novels. I obviously picked a spicy romance novel, which is Madame by Sarah Kate. This is the last book in the Salacious Players Club series. The entire series is about like these main characters who own a sex club together, and each book follows each of these owners as they like fall in love and all that. And this particular book is the last book. It's about this woman, Eden St. Clair, who initially had fallen in love with one of her clients, Clay. His name is Clay, right? I think so. I think his name is Clay. I think his name is Clay Bradley. She anyways ends up falling in love with one of his clients, but she doesn't really like confess it to him and instead ends up breaking their relationship off. And a couple of months later, he gets back into her life through his new girlfriend. So his new girlfriend is really curious about Eden, and she's like, I want to know you, I want to get to know you, I want to know what it is about you that made Clay fall in love with you. This book is an FFM romance. 3 people, and it kind of got me back into reading. Like, it's the thing is, books that are incredibly spicy for some reason like keep me going just to see like where the plot is headed. So I ended up finishing the book in 2 days, and it's pretty much like their story. Like, it's kind of second chance. And Eden is also a single parent, which was like a huge shock. I guess I'm not supposed to spoil that, but it's fine, I guess, right? Like, I mean, if you like want to read the book, just know it's a single parent romance. It's FFM romance, which is essentially why choose. That's pretty much it for Madame, and it definitely helped me keep my spark of reading alive. After Madame, I read the book Burn Bright by Kristan Baccarici. I actually signed up for an arc of this book and was super excited when I received it. And Burn Bright is essentially a spin-off of the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series. You also don't have to read that series to read this particular book. It's totally fine. There's like no spoilers as such. This book is the first book in the Cobalts series, and it follows, I think, five or six. Wait, Ben, Charlie, Beckett, Elliot, Tom, Audie. It follows the 6 Cobalt siblings, and each book is about each of the siblings, and this is the first one. And this particular book is about Ben Cobalt, who is this extroverted, outgoing, popular jock, and his love interest is Harriet Fisher, who is kind of his complete opposite. She's a punk rock nerd, and she's introverted, and she's very like grouchy and grumpy, and he's the sunshine in their relationship. And this story starts off very interesting. Ben ends up saving Harriet at a party when she's being bullied by a bunch of frat bros. And when they are talking and getting to know each other, she finds out that Ben Cobalt, who is a billionaire and he has $1 billion trust fund, is broke. And Ben tells her that please don't let this information out. I need you to keep this a secret, and I also need you to help me find a job because I'm going away and I need all the money I can get. So she's like, all right, I'll try to help you, I guess. And so she gets them a job at this bar, and they start working, and it's essentially about their romance. It's friends to lovers also. So you see how they become really close friends, and Harriet knows that Ben is leaving within the next year, so she doesn't really want to fall in love with him, but she can't help herself. And it's the same with Ben. He sees how understanding Harriet is of him, and she doesn't compare him to his other famous brothers. It was a really sweet book. I enjoyed it a lot, and the found family in this book is chef's kiss. Kristan Baccarici truly know how to write a good found family and integrate it into a romance novel. So this is a band of brothers, obviously, because Ben is in the book, he's living with his he's living with his 4 brothers, and you kind of see how his relationship is with each of the brothers and how these brothers are with Harriet, and the way they get so protective of her. Whenever Harriet is in trouble, they want to help her out because she is Ben's girlfriend. When she eventually falls in love with Ben, they are ready to stand up for her and protect her, and I thought that was just the sweetest thing ever. You get to see all of that in the book, which is, I think, really sweet. I love it when his family protects her because she's their part of their family through their brother. That's one of my favorite things ever, and that those particular scenes in this book have been stuck in my head. Then the final book that I read in August is another arc that I signed up for, which is called The Invite by Simran. And I signed up for this book mainly because it's written by an Indian author, and I thought, I actually surprisingly haven't read a romance novel by an Indian author, not really. I thought this would be a really nice way to read books by someone who's from the same culture as me. Sadly, there are no Indian characters in this book. This is a motorcycle dark romance, and it's reverse age gap, and it's teacher student. So it's very trope heavy, not gonna lie. And again, I signed up for this book because I knew it was gonna be spicy, and like I already mentioned, spicy books tend to keep me away from the reading slump. So I got this book, I read it, and it's addicting, but it's not necessarily a good book. Like, the guy in this book, his name is Augustus. He does like really morally great things. There's like stalking involved, and the spice in this book is like really, really dark. Think like Haunting Adeline level of darkness. I've seen those like reels on Instagram where they're hinting at what happens in Haunting Adeline. So like, if you enjoy that level of darkness, then you might probably enjoy The Invite. Me personally, like, I did read the book, obviously. I read the entire book. It wasn't boring per se, but it also wasn't necessarily a good book, in my opinion. Just because I'm not necessarily a fan of dark romances with this level of darkness. I enjoy Sophie Lark romances. So those ones I am perfectly fine reading, but this one I wasn't really sure. This book is essentially about that, and the plot of this book is kind of simple, really. She is like new in town, and one day she encounters him in the woods at night, and he like accidentally attacks her, and she's like so mad about it. Then the next day she goes to take classes at the high school, and she finds out that he's one of her students and like gets him suspended from school. And from then on, it's just the rest of the story continues. He's like, oh my god, I need to take revenge. I'm gonna torment her for the rest of her stay in this town and make sure that she like gets out of this town. And then it's all very, very, very spicy. And then there's also like a mystery element. There's like somebody kind of keeping tabs on a bunch of Augustus's friends and himself, as well as the teacher. The teacher's name is Nessa, the FMC. So there's that whole mystery subplot thing happening, which I thought was pretty cool. Most part, it was a good book, but it wasn't a great one. I'm being honest here, but if you guys want to read it, check it out. All in all, this is to say that August was definitely my worst reading month, because I didn't necessarily enjoy any of the books I was reading. I was just reading it because like they held my attention at that point in time when I was reading the books, after which I never really thought about the books again, except for like one or two like key details that like really stuck out to me, like Lexington's name, or the level of spiciness in The Invite, and the band of brothers in Birthright. Overall, not the best reading month, but the best book that I did read in August was definitely Birthright. Let's move on to the books that I read in September. I again was anticipating that September would probably be a boring reading month as well, because last week I also had my internal assessments, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to read a lot of books anyway. So I wasn't really like giving myself any expectations on how I wanted my reading to go in September. But surprisingly, things turned out pretty well, and I ended up reading 11 books. So crazy, I know. I read a lot of good books this month. Let me tell you guys what they are. Again, the first book that I read, sticking with the theme of reading spicy or dark romances to keep myself away from a reading slump. The very first book that I picked up in September was The Fucking Wrong Number. It's a dark romance by C.R. Jane, and it's also a sports romance, and I love sports romance. This book, initially, like the first like 50% of the book was great. Like all the stalking and everything, like all the dark elements of this book was like really funny to me, and I was enjoying reading it. But it was during the third act breakup that things just went south, and I did not enjoy whatever was happening at all. The only reason I like the stuff that was happening like later in the book was so unhinged, and that's what kept me going with the book. It was so unhinged that I needed to like read it and finish it, put it to rest. Like I didn't DNF it. And this book is essentially about this hockey player Lincoln who accidentally texts a wrong number when he's trying to like break up with a girl, and the wrong number happens to be Monroe's. And Monroe, kind of replies back saying that, dude, you've got the wrong number, this is not your girlfriend. I'm Monroe, I'm not the girlfriend that you're actually trying to text. And then she sends him a selfie of herself, and the moment he sees that selfie, he's down bad for her and obsession completely overtakes him. The rest of the novel is just that, like, he's obsessed with her and he's trying to get her to be with him. It was during the third act breakup that I absolutely started hating Lincoln and realized that this is not the brand of dark romance that I enjoy. I gave this book 3 stars because it was good in the beginning and I ended up hating it by the end. I mean, this book was practically a Stockholm syndrome waiting to happen. The entire book is just that, like Monroe developing Stockholm syndrome. And I'm the idiot over here. Let me just say, I'm an idiot because despite reading The Fucking Wrong Number and knowing that like I hated it by the end, I went ahead and picked up the second book anyway. The second book is called The Fucking Wrong Guy, and this is about Lincoln's best friend Ari Lancaster. He is also a hockey player, and this is a second chance romance, and Ari is actually a golden retriever. So I was like, ooh, a golden retriever in a dark romance is like definitely something I was gonna enjoy. I was pretty much thinking along the lines of Lights Out, because Josh in Lights Out is a golden retriever, and like I really enjoyed his dynamic with Ali. And so I was thinking about Lights Out as I went into this book. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so fun. And then as I was reading the book, I found out that it was like second chance, and like he is trying to get back together with his like childhood crush, and he like tracks her down all the way to Los Angeles and even ends up switching hockey teams just so he can be close to her. And I was like, wow, this is like so great, until the third act breakup again, where he just does some really not dark things that like I wasn't okay with it like at all. Like his solution to fixing their like breakup during the third act, I wasn't okay with. I at 80% of the book I was thinking that Ari was like so much better than Lincoln. He's like so supportive, until the things that he did at the 80% mark. After that I was like, okay, yeah, well, I'm definitely not going to continue the series. I am not going to be reading the rest of the, I don't even know what this series is called, the Fucking series. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be continuing with the rest of the series. Don't even try to convince me. If you have read the series and liked it, good for you, but I'm not going to read it. I can't. I gave up. And after reading these 2 books, you would think that I would probably switch genres and pick a nicer, lighter rom-com book. But you would be wrong, because again, I picked up a book which has stalking involved in it. I know, I'm crazy. Even my best friend at uni called me crazy for picking up a stalker romance, despite the fact that I previously just read a stalker romance and complained about how much I hated it. But what to do? I got this book as an arc, and the book I'm talking about is He Knows When You're Awake. And I initially thought, seeing the cover, I just thought it's gonna be a sweet Christmas romance, and didn't really like think much about the title when I signed up to receive an arc of it. And then when I finally got an arc, I realized that, oh shit, it's a billionaire stalker romance. And my friend, you can probably imagine the look she gave me when she realized that I signed up for this book without even thinking, without ever even reading the blurb or the synopsis of the book. I stuck with this book, and I'm glad I did, because This is the kind of stalker romance that I really enjoy. This book is about this billionaire Cole. I don't remember his last name. So yeah, he's a billionaire and he like owns this jewelry company of sorts, like fashion company, I think. And he is like stalking the FMC, who is a jewelry maker. So she designs like necklaces and bracelets and whatnot, and he stalks her and he gets her to come to a meeting with him and tries to convince her to like take up a job and work for him and make jewelry for him, because he knows that she's bored with her current job and doesn't really want to stay with her company. So she agrees, and the stipulations are that she has to move into his place. So this is obviously a ploy for to get her to fall in love with him. And when she finds out that he stalked her, she like a classic redhead move, she gives it back to him. And this is what I like about stalker romances, like FMCs, headstrong FMCs in dark romances is my favorite trope ever. I like the fact that they can like hold their own and stand up to the MMC when they are doing morally wrong things against the FMC. That's the kind of dark romance I enjoy. It was a good story, it was spicy, it was romantic, and there's groveling involved when the MMC realizes that he messed up and he has to grovel for forgiveness. It was overall a really good book. So by the way, He Knows When You're Awake is by Alta Hensley, and this is a new author to me, so I think I'm gonna check out her other books as and when they come out. After this, I read another book from a new to me author, which is Valentine Nook by Lulu Moore, and I received this book as an ARC as well, and this book was just chef's kiss. I loved it so much. It honestly made me consider packing my bags and moving to a small town in England, because that's how good the vibes of this book were. This book is about this actress called Holiday. Pretty peculiar name. It's about this actress Holiday, and she's kind of burnt out, she's exhausted, and she like wants to get away. And so she decides that she's gonna vacation for like 6 months in this small little England town. And when she gets there, she realizes that the property that she's staying on belongs to the Duke of that small town, and the Duke is obviously the MMC that she eventually ends up falling in love with. And this book was so cute. It's one of the most perfect rom-coms I've ever read. It's gonna make you laugh, it's gonna make you swoon, and the spice in this book is really good. Surprisingly, it's not too spicy, but the spice that is there was really nice. And yeah, their meet cute was one of the funniest things ever. I remember every chapter I would finish reading, I would pause and like turn to my best friend and narrate her everything that was happening, because I needed to share my joy of reading this book with someone else. You need to pick this book, you guys. Like, the vibes of this book are so good. And also the FMC is British. Like, if that's not enough to make you want to read this book, then I don't know what else is gonna convince you. Like, it's set in a small town. The MMC is a duke who is British, and he's down bad for her. Like, the things he does for her to make her smile and to make her happy, it was so good. And also, he has a bunch of brothers. So this is like, Valentine Nook is like the first book in the series, and the rest of the books are obviously going to be about his brothers. And the ribbing and teasing that he gets from his brothers was so funny and amazing to read, and kind of made me wish I had siblings whom I could tease. This book is definitely the one I think you should read out of all the books I'm gonna be talking about in this video. Once I finished this book, I didn't really read anything for the next 2 weeks because I was preparing for my internal assessments and busy studying. But during my internal assessments, and this is such a wrong thing to do, but like I was reading while my internal assessments were like going on, like in between studying for them. And what I was reading was this collection of short novellas, each written by a different author, and they are all centered around the theme of Halloween, which means one of the MCs in each of these books is a supernatural entity. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pick it up. And I also am like, selfishly, I wanted to read these novellas because I want to reach my reading goal of 100 books as soon as I can. Like last year, I wanted to read 100 books and I read only 93. This year, I want to desperately read 100 books because you just get a sense of achievement. And reading 100 books is definitely one of the things that like I pride myself on and like I'm really proud about. And I knew that reading novellas was the way to go. But before I could like I was honestly a little skeptical getting into this novellas series because the previous novellas I read like earlier this year wasn't really the best. Like my problem with novellas is that the build up is too fast. Like I feel like these characters profess their love for each other way too quickly, like just after knowing each other for like a couple of days or like couple of months. It almost feels unrealistic to me, which is why I don't really enjoy reading novellas. But these ones that I read were actually really good. I enjoyed reading them a lot. By the way, before I get into explaining all the novellas, you can read them in any order. They are not interconnected, so you won't meet like the same characters in the other books or something like that. And these novellas are actually really good, I'm not lying. So if you want to read something short and fun and quick with like only 50 to 100 pages, then you need to pick up one of these. They're pretty sweet. So the first one that I read was Falling by Christina Lauren, and for some of these books I'm not really sure what kind of supernatural entity they are, so this is just me making a guess. Alright, in the Falling, I think the MMC is an incubus. Like an incubus is somebody who sleeps with women, I think, while they're unconscious. I mean, in the novella, she was conscious and a willing participant. And surprisingly, this novella is like 50 pages, and thank God they don't profess their love for each other on page 50. Like that doesn't happen. It's more of an open, interpretive ending. Like you can kind of like sit and think about what you imagine the ending would be for these two characters. And it was really cute. The FMC like shows up to a party and she's kind of feeling lonely because her boyfriend like ditches her and goes off with his friends. And so while she's just like roaming around or whatever, she catches the MMC's eye, and the MMC is like immediately taken with her. But the problem is the MMC is under a curse, which only a woman, the FMC, who truly sees him for who he is, can break the curse. And obviously at the end of the book she ends up breaking the curse. I also realized that I'm spoiling the book, but this is to be expected, right? Like that's the most expected ending. So like go read the book. It's really cute. I enjoyed it. It's also very spicy, which is not really on brand for Christina Lauren. I feel like they don't really write a lot of spice, except unless you are thinking about the Beautiful series, which in that case, yes, the spice is spicy. In this book there's like one spice scene and it was very thorough. It was also, the whole novella was really cute. The ending was also super sweet. I really enjoyed it. After this I read another novella in the collection, which is called Beautiful Nightmare by Katie Robert. Katie Robert has written books like Neon Gods and Electric Idol. Those are like Greek mythological retellings. And this particular novella is about this FMC who is a sleep paralysis monster. And like the way Katie describes this monster is so cute. She has like pink skin and like pigtails and stuff, and I thought that was really cute. As a sleep paralysis monster, her job is to paralyze her victims while they're sleeping and take in the fear. Like, victim's fear is like food for her. So she's like supposed to do that, but she hates causing her victims pain. And one day when she like goes to, you know, paralyze her new victim, she ends up falling for him. And the plot is ridiculous. Like, the fact that the MMC is like so bold for letting a sleep paralysis monster willingly allowing her to paralyze him is so crazy to me. But it was really sweet, and the ending actually surprised me. I was pleasantly surprised. And yeah, this was just a really cute, short, and sweet story that I think you should read now that it's October and all. So yeah, you know, get into the Halloween spirit a little and read this novella. After this, I read My Boyfriends Are All Monsters by Kimberly Lemming, and this is by far the most weirdest book I've ever read, like ever. Like, in my history of reading, I don't think I've ever read a more weirder book than this one. And thank God it was a novella, because I would have definitely DNF'd it had it been a full, you know, 400-page novel. But this book is about this woman whose name I cannot remember. She is hiking with her friends and like she trips or something, and they just like leave her. Stupid friends and terrible friends, they just leave her and like go off, and she's like, oh my god, what do I do? And then she finds this well and she makes a wish by tossing a coin into the well, and the monster, or I don't even know what he is, I don't know, is he a monster or god? I have no idea what this MMC is, but yeah, he like sees her make that wish into his well, and he's like, I'm gonna make her wishes come true. And so like he like creates this like imaginary town or something, I think, and like gets her to like stay back in the town with him. It's just, this whole book was just so weird. Like, I didn't really understand the plot. I was like, my main question was like, what monster is he? Because like I truly could not make a guess. Like, is he a god? Or I don't know, what is he? I have no idea. If you guys ever end up reading this novella, let me know what monster you think he is. I'm honestly curious. Like, I find myself thinking about this so often, it's not funny. After this, I read another novella in the collection called Space Vampire by Ruby Dixon, and the title is a little on the nose. It takes place in space. The FMC is a human and the MMC is a space vampire. He's like lab-made space vampire, so he's not like an actual biologically, genetically created space vampire. So like alien scientists created him. What happens is he becomes too powerful and like starts overpowering the scientists. So the scientists kind of get scared and they leave the space station where they were working at, and the only other person who's left behind is the FMC, who is a human, and she used to be like this human pet to one of the alien scientists. So she obviously is like not happy living there. And then, you know, once she finds out that everybody is like evacuated, she also starts thinking of how to escape the space station before the scientists get back. And that's when she encounters the space vampire. My main thought as I was reading this space vampire was the fact that the way Ruby Dixon like describes this vampire, he sounds like an Avatar character. Like, he has blue skin and a tail, and he's like extremely tall. So like I just kept thinking about Avatar. So yeah, it was a really cute story. I think you should read this one as well, if you wanna like. Okay, sorry, I had to pause for a second because my dad wanted to come into the room. Go read Space Vampire, it's really cute. After Space Vampire, I read the 5th novella in the collection, which is called Spicy Little Curses by J.T. Jessinger. I'm not really sure how you pronounce her last name. Let me know in the comments if I'm pronouncing it wrong. This was by far my favorite novella in the entire collection. This novella had the perfect blend of romance, banter. Even the spice was really good. Like, it wasn't very like explicit or detailed. It was actually the way the spice scene was written. I actually enjoyed it. And then the mystery subplot like that goes along with this was so good. I honestly wished that this novella was a proper full length novel. Like, if this novella was like 400 pages, I would totally be down to read it. This story is about this journalist Petra, who comes into New Orleans because she's writing an article for their Halloween issue talking about supernatural activities and like people who claim to have paranormal abilities or whatnot. And she finds out about this tattoo artist in New Orleans who comes from this like family that has like some sort of curse on them, and so she wants to like find out more about it. And she also finds out that he like tattoos sigils on his clients to protect them from monsters. So she like figures that she's gonna interview him and see if the work that he does is actually like, you know, paranormal level or not. When she finally meets him, his first reaction is to send her away. He's like, you know, you can't be here, I need you to go get out of here. And she's curious and kind of wondering like why he's behaving like this. And so she keeps showing up day after day until one day she finds out that the curse that is on his family is that any woman who falls in love with a man from his family ends up dying in a couple of days. And so Petra finds herself falling in love with him, and now obviously it's a ticking time clock situation where Petra's life is in danger, and Dax, the guy, tattoo artist, and Petra need to work together to save her life. This book was so good, you guys. I wish it was a full-length novella, and the ending of this book honestly makes me wish J.T. Jessinger would write a sequel, because I would love to read Dax and Petra's story. Like, they could be going on a walk somewhere and I think I would enjoy their reading that. Like, the banter that these two have in the novella is crazy. It's so good. And finally, the last novella in this collection is called Hot for Slayer by Ali Hazelwood. This is, of course, you see Ali's trademark awkward humor. You see awkward FMC and like strong, confident MMC. And this book is about this vampire whose name I cannot pronounce, but for short let's call her Ethel, because that's what she calls herself for short in the novella. So it's about this vampire Ethel, and she has this mortal, or like I guess you should say immortal enemy. His name is Laszlo, and Laszlo is a vampire slayer. So his job is to kill vampires, and these two have been like he's been trying to kill her for the past like 100 years, I think, and like he never manages to quite kill her. One day when they are in an altercation, Laszlo hits his head and he ends up having amnesia of sorts, and so she kind of starts like wondering like, oh my god, should I like help him out or like kill him, because this would be the perfect opportunity to kill Laszlo and get rid of a problem entirely. But the problem is that now that Laszlo has amnesia, his personality completely switches. Instead of like trying to kill Ethel, he like is looking at her lovingly and like acting so romantic towards her, so she's like confused. So yeah, that's like pretty much the novella. Ethel is like worried about what's gonna happen once Laszlo regains his memories. And I just want to say that there is something about Ali Hazelwood, like she knows how to rock the he falls first trope. Like, this is a trope that you'll see in like almost all of her books, and she really knows how to write a good yearning MMC who like notices things about his love interest and like is willing to do anything for to make sure that his love interest is happy and cared for. If you love Conrad Fisher, because obviously everything in my life ties back to the summer I turned pretty for some reason now. If you love Conrad Fisher and like loved watching him yearn, then like you need to read like her books, you guys. Hot for Slayer was definitely a good book that I think you guys should pick up. It's a bit longer, so you might actually enjoy this one. The build up of their relationship is really sweet. Pick up this one. After this, the final book that I read in September is called The Good Girl Effect by Sarah Kate. This is a spin-off to the Salacious Players Club series, and this is about their children. And the first book is about Jack St. Clair. He is a single father who is grieving the death of his wife, and he hires a nanny to work for him. And this nanny is obviously his love interest. Her name is Camille Aubert, and these two find themselves starting to fall for each other. And this book is like really sexy and steamy and even romantic at times too. But the problem is Camille is hiding some secrets that could make or break their relationship. And this book was actually really good. It literally kept me up till 2 a.m. trying to read it. And even during class, like when my professor left us free, I was actually like sitting and reading this book because that's how engrossed I was. Obviously, the book was attention grabbing. It kept me hooked. I read it, like I couldn't put it down. But I will say the story is a little predictable. Like there are a lots of single dad nanny romances out there, so I didn't really think this story was anything special as such. I mean, the only thing I can like probably point out about this story is that it's kind of like 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, not that the MMC is like tortured or anything, like he's grieving for his ex-wife, not ex-wife, sorry. He's grieving for his like, dead wife. Dead? Can I say that? He's grieving for the wife he lost, and then while also simultaneously like falling in love with the nanny. It was a good book, obviously. It's also very spicy, which is why I said it's kind of like 50 Shades of Grey. Like if you have you know about what the spice is like in 50 Shades of Grey, so like it's kind of like that level of spice here in The Good Girl Effect. And I actually enjoyed this book a lot. It was really cute, and the relationship between Camille and his daughter was also really cute. It was just really nice seeing, and it's set in Paris, so that setting is like obviously really nice. Even the summer I turned pretty, like last 3 episodes are set in Paris, which is so unrelated, but just goes to show you how much and how well that show has been stuck in my head. That's it for all the books I read in August and September. I think I will probably film another video in a couple of days, not sure, but I will try to film another video because I do want to post, but again it depends on whether I have the time for it or not. That's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and sticking with me for the past 2 months. And I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about all these books. Feel free to comment down below if you've ever read any of these books and what you think about them, and you can even like recommend other books that you think I might enjoy. Like I would love to know. I will see you guys in my next video, hopefully soon. I don't want to keep you guys waiting, and bye.